Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is a conversation with Mario Joos. Mario is the founder of Brightrock, which is a research and consulting company that helps big creators get even bigger. And now he's the CEO of the Stokes Twins, who, as of this recording, run the 8th biggest YouTube channel in the world at right around 128 million subscribers. He also previously worked on the MrBeast team, so Mario is no stranger to working with the most influential creators on the platform. We chat about why he joined the Stokes team, how creators can scale their content by hiring and outsourcing wisely, how the YouTube algorithm actually works, and what to start doing and stop doing to make your videos suck less. I'm Dillan Taylor. I run Grindstone, which is accountability coaching for video creators. Our clients have generated over $755,000 in added income from their content businesses. And hopefully conversations like this one with Mario help you level up your own content so that maybe one day we can work together. But if you are feeling stuck in your own creator growth, if you're unsure whether or not you're copying somebody or being original, or if you're terrified to hire your first editor, you will get a ton out of this conversation. I always love talking to Mario. He's an absolute monster in the creator space, and he's a friend. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Mario Joos. Mr. Mario, you recently became the CEO of the Stokes Twins. Why?
It's interesting that you start with why. Why is very simple to answer. When I left the MrBeast team, I think we had a conversation about this in the past. I wanted to do something bigger, and I wanted to have a little bit of a challenge. So I started a research consulting company. But then along the way, I started consulting all these creators. And one of those creators, the Stokes Twins, they asked, I always kept on complaining about things like, the company needs to run like this, the company needs to run like that. And then they're like, hey, can we bring you on in higher capacity? And to me, I was like, well, I always talk. Why don't I actually walk the talk? And I was like, okay, let me do it myself. Let me show and let me prove to myself that I can actually help grow a channel really big. And also, learn a little bit more about being a CEO. So I saw it was like the perfect opportunity between actually trying to go for number one, but also like get some extra experience as a CEO and learn from the journey as we go. So that's the simple why, really, actually.
And obviously, if we're talking about the Stokes Twins, you and I are friends. They are no strangers to controversy. Namely whether you know much about them or not, from just like a casual YouTube fan or viewer, there was their sort of fake bank robbery back in 2019, which is like six years ago up until now. But I think the more relevant conversation topic is, again, without knowing too much about them, if you just like hear the name, what comes to mind for I think many people as far as controversy is the idea or concept of copying ideas for content, copying thumbnail designs, etc. And so what has been going through your head generally in terms of associating yourself and like literally like taking control over a business with such controversy?
Yeah, and I know that you say this and you ask me this with the best intentions, and I want to lead with that, because often when people critique, they do it with an intent to hurt, and I know you don't, and I really appreciate it, and that's why I told you as well when we got into this whole conversation, like I told you, like no question is off limit, because I know you mean well. So yeah, why would I associate myself with creators like that? And I think it is, first of all, I think there's two parts to this puzzle, right? It's like, you get the controversy of the bank situation. I think it's such an old one that is like, look, we all make content. We're all in the early days. Think about PewDiePie, for example, in 2018 as well. He's gone through some controversy during that time, but you wouldn't hold that over him to this day anymore. I mean, that's 6-7 years ago. Now, obviously, we need to hold people accountable. I really, really believe that one. But we also need to give people a chance to learn from what they've done in the past, grow into the creators that they are. And I think that's exactly the situation that we're in. Is that I see people constantly bring that up. I know there's some stuff, but people tend to give so much attention to that, and they forget about some of the great things that the guys are doing. Because if that was the only thing they are, a controversial creator, then they wouldn't be where they are today. And they are where they are today because they make fun videos. They have jokes that some people are like, ooh, I don't know if I would make that joke, but it's like that's exactly what the teens want. They want to hear those jokes. They want to have a little bit of fun. And I think that's from that controversy is like they already learned their mistake, and I think it's for any critic, I would say, look, how about we move on and how about we focus on what's going on now? And even when we look at now, we can look a year back, 2 years back, etc. Now, then that brings me kind of to the second part of the whole statement here, where it's about the copying, right? And I think this is a trickier one because yes, if you look 6 years back, then we can really say that that oh, maybe there was a little bit more going on. And I know there's one interview that they've done, an interview that they done with John Juice, where he also presented some things. And I want to take a different take here. Is that I think, and this is from my perspective. I'm not speaking for Stokes. I'm speaking from my perspective here. Is I think there's a lot of people who are saying that things are copying because there's some overlap. But I think as well, like if you think about a tech reviewer, right? Somebody who reviews a phone, there's only so many ways you can review a phone, right? Now you have your own way, your own stylistic choice and stuff. Maybe it's your jokes that another person doesn't do. So I think there's a difference between inspiration and copying here. And I think a lot of people still say that they're copying just because they have a similar video idea. Well, lo and behold, MrBeast is out. I mean, he does Squid Game in real life. Guess what? Other people are also doing Squid Game in real life. So it's if you're gonna judge somebody that they're copying simply because they have a similar idea, I think that's taking it very far. That's like saying like two rock songs, oh, they sound similar, therefore, you're copying each other. It's like, I don't know, it's a little far-fetched in my eyes. I think when we look at copying, well, what we need to look at is like, how do they present their stuff? What's the script looking like, for example? What are the segments looking like? What are the characters? So, for example, when they do a secret rooms, right, they have a certain way of doing the secret rooms that other people don't. Like many people have done secret rooms, but they execute on it differently.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. I have several thoughts popping up for me, which is one, when creators join Grindstone, one of the first things that we have them do is make an inspiration list, right? Like 5 creators within your space, 5 creators outside of your space, and literally like picking apart, like, what are the things that inspire you about this person? What are the things that they seem to be doing really, really well, or seems to be doing well with their channels, with their niche or space? Like literally, like figure out what is working. So in a way, you I think it's the Gestalt principle in design, where we think it kind of emotionally feels good to like, oh, like I want to like create something that no one's ever seen before. Like, it's never been done before. And it's like the Gestalt principle says that, like, why does every website look the same? It's like, well, because our brains are used to websites looking and acting and feeling a certain way, or, there are only so many thumbnail designs because, look, clearly, if you make something so completely, totally unique that's never been done before, it's like, well, then if it's ever exactly been done before, it's probably not going to be received very well. Like, we're used to a certain thing.
You're touching on one thing. You mentioned thumbnail designs. I love this one. So I've done an analysis myself, and what I did is I took thousands of thumbnails, and then I put them together, and I looked at the overall composition of those thumbnails. And then I tried to identify, hey, is there a certain pattern? Is there a certain like reoccurring compositions? And what we find out is that nearly all thumbnails on YouTube can be placed within 75 compositions. That's not a lot. That is not a lot for billions and billions of videos. Now, there are compositions that are completely messy. Like you got text on the left corner, then a face, then a logo. Like, sure, you have the messy ones and very difficult. I just call them the mess, right? But but overall, if you look at most aesthetically pleasing, visually appealing thumbnails that people use, then we notice that most of them can be fit within a range of 75 compositions. That's not a lot to play with. Now, so for example, one of those compositions is a split screen, right? You can only do split screen. Like, yeah, you can do 3 panels, 2 panels. When you do the reaction phase, why do everybody look like, oh, well, so, yeah, you have a little bit of variety here, but overall, if you combine, let's say, a split screen with a reaction phase like that, well, there's not a lot of variation that you have there. And then I think is that where's the difference then? Well, the colors that you use, your face versus my face, for example. Maybe there's some stylistic choice that you can do, like a certain wavy pattern to the whole thing. or a screenshot. Do you use a screenshot from your video, or do you have a certain hand to draw a feeling to your thumbnails? So you have some variation there, but again, you can only paint a tree in so many ways. It will still be a tree, but you painting a tree and my painting a tree will still, like, in a way, yeah. Are we copying? Sure. If I copy the exact stroke and stuff, but if I just paint a tree and you paint a tree, I wouldn't consider that like a problem with copying. I consider that as like, hey, you're inspired by others, you're learning from others, and at this point, though, if you look at a Stokes Twins video from the surface, you may be like, hey, I know similar channels, but you open their video, they're one of a kind. They really are. They're one of a kind because they've gone through these stages. But again, I think the big thing with the controversy is most people, when they look at Stokes and they have negative opinion, they're not here in the first place to even think, to even give them a chance to even look at that. No, they look at that and like, oh, let me find something to hang them over. And it's like, that's the same thing. If you look at me and my gaming career, you can find a clip of me yelling at my teammates. Like, sure, you can always find something you don't like about a person. That doesn't mean that says something about who they are today. I don't think I look, well, maybe I do look like that. I don't think I look anymore like the person who yells at his teammates if I'm in a video game. Maybe some people might disagree with that. Maybe I do look like that. But I used to be that. Now I'm a very calm person. So it's like, why if you can change, why can the creator not change? So that's kind of, it's a splurt of thoughts here, but I think that's, like, in general, the answer that I have related to controversies.
My buddy and I were laughing about this the other day because we were going through our old voicemails because, like I still have voicemails from like 15 years ago when I got my first iPhone. And we're like, if these were to ever see the light of day, like we can't run for office. Like, God forbid I like actually build a real audience for myself. Like the amount of cancelable things I did and said before smartphones existed, before everything was on camera. I'm like, I wonder what's going to do me in. I'm curious to see what it is. It won't be good, but basically, as I hear it, it's just like, as we get older and older, and especially as you're making a real name for yourself, like you're going to do things that are going to make you cringe, that make other people cringe, that are going to be embarrassing,
Absolutely.
that you're going to regret. And another key concept here, before I sort of like want to figure out what you're actually gonna do, like with the Stokes Twins moving forward, is, do you know Destiny, the streamer, political commentator? So he has a great concept called just keep streaming. Right? Instead of just keep swimming, like Finding Nemo, it's just keep streaming. And that came from one of his like major embarrassing moments where I think he was at, I don't know the specific details, but as I remember it, he was at a content creator conference, and that same weekend, nudes of him leaked that he sent somebody, or it's just like, if it were to happen to us, it'd be like, oh wow, this is going to be a scarring experience, and it's going to live on the internet forever. And he got home from that weekend, and people were just like, all right, dude, just lay low, just like let this die out, blah, blah. And he was like, no. And he just streamed like normal on Monday, and his chat was flooded with people roasting him and even like posting the photos, and it was brutal. And he was just like, yeah, okay, blah, blah. He just did a stream. Tuesday streamed about half as much roasting and hate, and then Wednesday about half, and a week later, no one was talking about it at all because he had just continued to plow through and push through. And I think we've seen this a ton. Like the Paul brothers come to mind. Basically, like X controversial thing happens, and then for better or for worse, like if you literally just keep creating and keep on your path and keep working on what you're building, I mean, there's only, like, we forget so easily. There's so much going on in the world. And holding someone to a thing within reason.
A lot of things initially, they feel like a very big deal. But then once we pass it, we all get caught up. Like, I love drama. If somebody gets some drama, I'm excited. I'm like, oh, people getting canceled. And then five minutes later, it's like, okay, that was so a lot of times you're so more caught up in the news about it rather than like actually if it's a bad thing or not. And there are still limitations. And I think that's also, there's this one thing that I've learned, even being at the MrBeast team when I was there. It's the idea of that if you get into controversy, right? Don't just don't just move on. Don't even address it. There's no point in it. And it comes to an extent. And I think it depends on really where the extent is. If you have generally done something bad with bad intentions, for example, then you should self-reflect and ask yourself, like, hey, what should I do here? But there's a lot of drama that doesn't have very great merit. Like, yes, yes, certain things are not nice, and then you should be held accountable. And you should then say that, look, I have reflected. I mean, you shouldn't just say it. You should actually generally reflect and then express how you feel about it. And hopefully you come to the realization that you made some mistakes. But for the most part, is that people will complain about many, many things, right? I mean, I know as well, and this is a practice that I have for most creators. Is I did this once with my assistant. I said, I want you to look on the internet, and I want you to try to cancel me. I want you to find every dirt on me, like anything that you don't like, anything that you know anybody's going to critique. And it's not for the sake of trying to hide that stuff, because I believe if you hide something, it's going to resurface anyways. I was just like, okay, can I be okay that somebody at some point is going to come to me and be like, hey, why did you do this one? And did I reflect on that one? Did I think it was okay? Or do I now realize, like, you know what? Actually, that was not acceptable behavior. A lot of times when we're young, we do a lot of things that is unacceptable. For example, like I said earlier, when I was a professional gamer, I would yell at my teammates, whether it was in public or not. That is definitely not something that I find acceptable anymore. At that time, I was just so obsessed with trying to become the best, and that was the only thing I cared about. And in return, actually, I was being disrespectful at times to people, and I don't think that was a good thing to do. And I think it's like, now I realize that if you do that one, you lose friendships, you lose people around you. At what cost? Just so that you can be good at a video game. Now I don't think that value is aligned anymore. So now I'm rather like, if me not being disrespectful towards other people, if that prevents me from being at the top, then it's like, maybe I don't want to be at the top, because it comes at a cost. And that comes down to values and morals. But I also think is when you're 18, even when you're in your young 20s, is you're not really too busy thinking about your values and your morals. Maybe you'll have a little bit, but if I ask you, hey, tell me what your values are, many 20-year-olds don't know. Once you go into your older ages, you spend time thinking about that, and you spend time reflecting and be like, okay, these are my values, and I'm going to uphold those values. And these are values that I'm not going to cross. So for example, for me, if I have a client who is here like, I'm just doing YouTube only for money, I'm like, good for you. I'm not going to judge you for it. I'm not going to say that you can't, but I wouldn't feel passion working for you or working with you, because if you only care about that one, I just, that doesn't align with my values. I think there's a lot more to it. So long story short, I think it all comes back together is that, we always treat people just because they're famous. We hold them up to a very high standard, and we forget that there's sometimes humans behind them. Now, yes, they should be held to a standard because they are setting an example for other people and stuff. But at the same time, we have to also, I think we have to reason and understand and hold people accountable, but also we should be forgiving at times, especially if a person is generally sorry and they generally understand, I've made a mistake. So
100%. And by the way, my values at 20, if you were to ask me, I think was alcohol and women. So I'm not sure I deserved a YouTube channel at that point. Didn't quite feel like I understood that until I was like 20, 26, 27. So I think
a lot of people, if you really look at it, and maybe like, I can only speak for guys here because I don't know how it is for girls and stuff. Is for guys, I know that typically what I notice is that the guy only starts to really mature when they're in their 24, 25th. That seems to be the range where they start to grow up. And sure, they're becoming adults. They're not stupid, they're not stupid. Like, you have some brilliant minds, like, they can think for themselves when they're 14 already, like 16, 18. But the thing is, like, there's still a difference between really starting to realize, like, hey, where's life heading, like taking responsibility, etc. And I feel like for most guys, that seems to be around the age of 24, 25. And that's when you also start seeing a shift, because when I noticed that's when you see people really start worrying about values and start to figure out what they want in life as well. So it's a little late because it's 25 years on Earth, and some people figure it out very early. I've got some people, they're like in their 18s or they're like 16, and they got a lot of stuff figured out, and they're running great business. And I'm like, man, good on you. I was not there when I was 18. I was worried about getting my first hug.
Yeah.
Hey, good on you. You got your life figured out, I didn't have it figured out at that age, and I think a lot of men don't have it figured out at that age.
That's really good. First hug. Oh, I would hug you, Mario. I would come to Bulgaria and hug you. Yeah, I just had Brian Ung on the show. He's just turned 22. He's got a really successful YouTube script writing business. He's talking to me about like worldly wisdom that he's gained, and I'm just like, when I was 22, I think doing drugs with a girlfriend and skipping school.
Take another sip.
Yeah. So you are now CEO of the Stokes Twins, and I mean, you have your own company. So that I can't even imagine. I mean, as someone who's trying to build one thing and do that one thing very well, for you to be operating and building two at the same time, like where are you at now? What's the main goal or mission? And if this maybe a better question would be, if this next year goes perfectly for you, what would happen in that year?
Wow. I think I know it's not going to go perfectly, but I think that's where acceptance comes into play. Like, I've accepted, but I'm doing my absolute best. Yes, it is true that it is already hard to grow one thing, let alone two things. And then one of the companies, actually, there's so much more going on within that company as well. So for me, it's just that my whole goal with leaving the Beast team was to start a research consulting company and do something big. But I know if I really wanted to do the research that I wanted to do one day, I'm gonna have to build something really, really big. And that's what that research consultant company is called, Brightrock. What that is for is like we research and then we figure out, okay, how can we use the knowledge from that research to then educate others and turn it into a revenue stream that we can then pour back into research. So I think the way that I'm making all of this work is to realize that, look, I'm not going to do this alone. And I think that's also why I like the fact that I'm now running two companies, is because you cannot, as a person, run two companies, not by yourself. So it kind of forces me to build a team around me with some of the greatest people. And I think that is, I think when you have your own company, and I noticed this when I just did my company, I wasn't CEO of Stokes yet, you will just make up for it. Yeah, I'll do it myself. Now I run two companies. I cannot do it myself. I physically cannot do it myself, right? Unless I bust my ass off, but then I don't have time for my son or my wife, and those are very important to me. They're very near to my heart, and even my friends as well. They do matter to me. So now I'm forced in this position. There you go. Hey, we're having this conversation, and you could tell how difficult it was to schedule something in right now. But it's like what I think is that I can make this work as long as I find the right people to make this work for me. So what I've done is at Brightrock, then I've hired a guy. He was like a professional boxer, and I was and he wanted to do more with his life, and I was like, why don't you do that with me? And then there was an editor, and he had an agency, and he was like, I want to do something else. Like, I want to do something more. And I was like, why don't you do that under Brightrock? Why don't you work with me? And I think that's what I'm trying to do, is find all these people who are really ambitious and smart, and put them together. And the only thing that I'm doing is I'm driving the mission, I'm driving the vision, and really, really point them towards, here's where I want to go. So here's the values that we uphold, but otherwise, let's build together. And that's the same with Stokes. With Stokes right now, we're hiring some people. We initially had partnerships with people like, we had some partnership with some agencies, and I was like, let's not do that anymore. Like, not on an exclusive basis. Let's build it in-house, and let me just get some really great people, some people who, who wants to be the best brand manager? And it's like, that person is really motivated to do that one. Let's get that one on board. Who are the best script writers here? Who are the ones who want to run an entire production department, for example? Bring them together and have people who are very autonomous and can run things themselves and are ambitious. And I think my success will not be how much can I do. It will be how good was I at finding the right people around me and continuing to motivate them to stay around me. And I think that's where the real success will come from. It's not from just myself. It's from a combination between myself as well as those around me. And I think, if anything, those around me is the more important part of the puzzle here.
I love this for so many reasons. I think selfishly because it's that's sort of the space and the season that I am also in within Grandson Coaching. And it's the whole concept, 10x is easier than 2x, right? Like, yeah, you could work twice as hard, Mario, but it's like you could destroy yourself and your life and your habits and your family by 2xing, maybe even 3xing. Maybe you could work 3 times as hard, but it's not sustainable. You're going to run yourself and your brain and your life into the ground. And instead, if you just build an incredible team around you, right? I mean, creators can do this themselves. Like, I have seen so many times the euphoric joy and peace that comes when one of our creators finally finds a long form video editor that they align with. And they're just like, my life is different now. My entire life is different now that I have someone doing work for my business, on behalf of my business, when I'm not around, right? I'm of course, it creates newer, different, higher leverage problems. Like, you have to get good at recruiting, you have to get good at managing people, right? It's not just this thing you abdicate and like, all right, you handle this forever. I'm never gonna right? I'm just gonna close my eyes to this problem. And it was for Grindstone, just to share, and I think you know a lot of this, but it was just me and my business partner, right? Like, so I've handled all the sales and marketing, getting clients in, and my business partner, Colby, shout out, awesome guy, best in the world. He coaches our clients. He's the accountability and business coach for our clients. And then at the start of this year, we took on another one of my best friends that I happened to just meet at a random meetup in Colombia, as our CFO, and he's been COO, CFO for companies for like 15, 16 years. And before that, I was like barely keeping our books together with a stupid little spreadsheet, just like we call it. The baby was driving the car, and then finally we found an adult, and the baby handed the keys over to the adult. That's exactly what it felt like. And since taking him on in the beginning of the year, our financial organization and sort of projections and like the stories that we can understand based on our numbers have, again, not 2x'd, like 20x'd as far as how sharp we are in that. And now we have runway, and it's like, okay, now we have 12 months of runway. And it's just like, I was never going to get us to that point. That was just not my skill set. I didn't have the experience. So taking one person onto the team multiplied. He didn't add to the team. He multiplied our team. And I have a conversation tomorrow. The next step is hiring a head of marketing to just handle, like, sharpen our outbound systems. Because like, okay, I can do this myself, and it's been good enough up until this point, but to continue at the trajectory in which we want, I need to. I don't know if you've seen this yourself, maybe with like even YouTubers you worked with, but there can be this like CEO or founder ego of like, well, no one can do XYZ like I can. Like, I'm the best at XYZ. It's like, that's probably not true. Like, there are probably, you probably just can't afford, like, I just can't afford yet the people who are 500 times better than I am at these things. So it just becomes, get very good at recruiting these people, finding these people, making it worth their time to join the team, to basically fix your systems, improve these systems, and do it, just so that you can move 10 times faster.
Even if you cannot do it, even if you're bad at recruiting, right? Like, you can still find great people who are good at recruiting and who understand your company. And I think that's the same with Stokes. Is like they have a lot of things they want to focus on. You know, they have to focus on a lot of things. They're creators. They're the face of the thing. It's like, you know, who's gonna strategically think about how your organization is built? Well, bring in somebody. I'm not your typical CEO, but they trusted me. We were friends. They know that I'm a strategic mind. I come with my flaws, but they're like, hey, look, we trust him that he can do the right thing. We can trust him that he's going to probably connect us to the right people. And I think that's really what it's all about. It's not even about finding the perfect person. It's like, some people just grow to be perfect. I have a guy myself. I used to do all my research myself, and now this guy, I just tell him like, look, for 1.5 years, I just allowed him to just mess up. And now it's like, I present something to him and he just brings it home, and he does something really beautiful and good about it, which I really like. And I think all in all is that just bringing people around you is one of the best things that you can do. And I've done it. And with creators, yes, it's right. A lot of, especially smaller creators, they're so stuck like, oh, I can do this. And it's like, yeah, but if I find somebody who can do 80% of what I can do, that is 80% now. Maybe they could do 110% tomorrow. And I think that's what you also have to think about is, you know, but when you allow other people to do the things that you're currently doing, what you're now doing is you're freeing up time for the things you really want to be doing. I don't want to be like making a spreadsheet for my invoices. I've done the exact same thing where you like, build my spreadsheet, have my invoices, track my stuff. Now I just hand it over to somebody else, and he's created a system for it now. So now I just have to press one button, and bam, invoice gets created, it gets sent and stuff, and we're all good. It allows me to, in that hour that I'm now working on the invoices now I can work on analyzing something. And this is, it's not only just more work. It's not like, oh, you're hiring people to allow you to do more work. Yes, that is a benefit. But if you then say, look, I actually want to enjoy some of the other parts of life, like spending time with your son, for example, right? You now can do that too. Maybe you don't have a son. You want to play some games and just have some fun. You can do that one. So, but I do think there's a little bit of a side note here, is that, and the side note here, or the smaller note here, is that it also depends on what your goals are. If you want to build something really big, then you have no option. You cannot do that unless it's with the people around you. But if you're like, look, I would just want to have $1 million business, I want to make about 6 figures a year, for example, yeah, you can do that by yourself. You absolutely can. And you can fill your days with it and you're going to be happy. But you want to do anything bigger than that, you're probably going to have to hire a team around you. And and even if you, that's also another thing, is that even if you want to just be $1 million business and make it 6 figures a year, why not make your life easier? Why not hire an assistant even? Why not hire a CFO who takes care of it? You're just making your life easier. And I think that's what the creators as well, is that it's, yes, you can make things better. I always say there's 5 ways that you hire, like 5 things that you can hire people for. Is one, do they help you save time? Right? Save time on things you don't like to do. Maybe you don't get that satisfaction out of it. 2, do they make you money? Maybe they directly make you money. That's what a salesperson does, right? Like, that's a good thing. Do they save you money? Maybe you just don't want to lose what you have, and maybe you don't want to be spending like tens of thousands of dollars on people, and maybe they found a solution there. Then, do they train others in your team? Sometimes you just hire people to train others in your team. And the 5th one is, do they increase the quality of your product? Sometimes you bring somebody in, like, you think you make great stories. Why don't you bring in, for example, a story consultant, somebody who truly understands story, and they improve your product? It's going to make you feel better because now you have a better product. So, all in all, I think we're very aligned in the idea that hiring others and helping them, like enabling them to help you be more successful, is a no-brainer to do.
And if somebody has a very limited budget, again, we work with smaller creators, and there's a very common terror or fear of like, if I'm going to be hiring something as simple as a thumbnail designer, or I think editor is the most prevalent example, but it's just like, if I'm going to be hiring XYZ person, I need an immediate return. I need it to either pay for itself or make me more, which is like, it's probably not going to happen. Especially the smaller your budget is, it's probably not going to happen. And so what advice do you have to a creator who is scared to take the first step in outsourcing something that they would no longer have to do themselves?
I think obviously people know when they can afford something or not, but let's say you have a budget where you are able to afford things. The thing is, I guess, is that a lot of times we are afraid to hire people because we feel like we have to pay somebody a certain price. We have to pay them like a nice above average wage. We cannot like hire somebody for like 1,000 per month simply because, oh, there's people in LA working for 10,000 per month or something like that. And I think it's a lot of scared because they're afraid to be judged for not paying people very well. The thing is, whenever you're beginning, guess what? In the world, remote, sometimes even on location, there are people who are willing to come work with you for a very minimal amount. Also, you don't have to hire somebody full time. Like, hire according to what's possible. And sometimes that means a lower quality person, just to get started. When it comes down to editors, I think editor is a perfect example. I know editors who do $50 to $100 for an entire video. I know editors who also work for $20,000 plus per month. There's such a variety. Now, you're not going to get the same quality, but hey, sometimes a $50 to $100 editor can work out, So, and people are like, yeah, but you're underpaying. Well, yeah, if you look at the regional prices, you are. But if that person, for example, is in Thailand or India or any of those countries, they work just as hard. And for them, you're doing like, that is good. They're willing to work hard for that price. And you're not being unfair about that one, because the thing is they can actually, because editors are very high in demand. They actually can ask for more if they want to. But I think this is where it could get a little bit controversial. Because so like this is like what should people get paid, what not, etc. And there's a lot of opinions around it, but I think a lot of people are scared because they feel like instantly have to go for a full time, pay them very well. I'm gonna give one example from my own company. I had this guy, right, and I hired him initially, and I said like, look, he had an offer for a bigger company for more, and I was like, yeah, take that money, but I said like, look, I can pay you minimum. Like I can pay you minimum wage here. And minimum wage was not very high. But I was like, that's what I can do. And this is my first proper hire. So obviously, like, I was a little bit scared. Now things were turned out very well and he started making me money. So I was like, okay, eventually I got him to average wage here. And that was looking pretty good. Now he's above average wage right now. So he is starting to make really good money. And I told him like, look, when we get to a good position, I'm going to give you more, but it needs to make sense. And now as well, when I hire people, I have a very tendency to do this. I like to bring in people low because I also want to see like how much do they want to, like, am I going to have a long-term value? Are we going to maintain a relationship? Some people you cannot hire for a low price, but I like to do that. But I like to then promise them like, look, if it makes sense business-wise, I want to put you, I want to make sure you're taken care of. I want to make sure that you don't think about, like your next month's rent. I don't want you to think about those things, but I also have to think about the sustainability of my business. And I know this is where it's like very tricky because some people will take advantage. They will never give the person a raise. I've given a person a raise 3 times in a single year simply because I really wanted to get them onto a good stage. So, but again, it's so dependent. There's so many factors. I think a lot of people are afraid because they feel like they have to pay somebody a certain price. They have to hire full time and they have to hire the best. Well, guess what? If you want to hire the best, there's other people with way more money that are looking for those same best people. So the single second they get a hold of them, they'll just steal them from you. So maybe it's not a bad idea. Just start basic and see how that goes and get experience as well. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that last bit. Like it can just be a huge piece of the value of just starting and like going on Upwork and finding like anyone who you can afford for like 30 days or like just one video. It's just like the experience of trying to collaborate with another person on your behalf is so valuable. And because you'll see it's tough. It's really tough. It's like, oh, what happens when they send me a horrible finished product? Like how do I respond? What do I do? And it's just this thing that, you do it 100 times, you're going to get insanely good at it. Like, again, recruiting, hiring, managing, giving feedback. Like these are all meta skills and muscles that really need to be strengthened over time, especially if you're going to be scaling 100%. Something and building something out. And yeah, people, I've heard several, it can be controversial and there are a lot of different opinions on the whole. Is it ethical to outsource to another country where it's significantly more affordable? And my take has always been, it's all subjective, right? Like even within my own country, the United States, like if you get a job in New York City, they have to pay a much higher salary because the cost of living is significantly higher. So we have vast differences between like within our own country as opposed to like if you get a job in Alabama in the middle of nowhere, it's like, yeah, you're gonna get a lower salary for the same position as if they were offering it in Manhattan. So it's just like, what is the objective? Are we just going with the country average, or like what are we really basing this off of? So totally agree. If you are just starting out, like find someone that is like very affordable for you and just get that experience and see what happens, see what it's like. And then typically there's this inverse graph. Maybe see, I said graph and your head poked up. I know you love charts and graphs.
I love charts. You got me so excited. I was like, well, finally, we're talking about graphs, numbers, correlations.
You've been bored as hell, and then I said graph, and you were like,
what's happening?
With your retention graph in the background, it's great.
Yeah, true. I got that one special for this conversation. I just wanted to remind you,
in case I forgot who I'm talking to. What was my point? Oh, there's this inverse graph between cost of XYZ contractor that you could work with and amount of effort it will take on your part to manage this person and collaborate with this person. So like extreme example, if you're paying someone $1 an hour to edit your videos, they're probably going to, you get what you pay for. And so to compensate for that, you're going to need to give this person a lot of feedback. They're probably going to do things at a much lower quality than you would want yourself. So it's going to like you're going to have to probably talk to them frequently, as opposed to, per my example before, we take on our new CFO who's been doing this for almost 2 decades. It basically requires fewer very specific points of questioning or feedback from me. I can literally just say,
Absolutely.
"Hey, Duncan, can you make a graph that like projects the next month?" And he is so experienced, he needs very little prompting to know exactly what to
Yeah.
do. Where if it is
Yeah,
his
it's
first month,
like it's as a good CFO, you can ask him like, look, I need to understand like, are we good financially? And they're like, let me show you. While normal one, you have to be like, okay, I want my balance state, I want my balance sheet, I want to understand how my cash flow is, I want this, I want to break down on this. Like you have to, and the thing is, often when you're in business, like especially as you're growing, you don't want to think about those things anymore. So that's why as well, like when the reason why I pushed one of those people higher and higher in salary is because I noticed that the more I worked with him, the less questions I had to ask. I just had to be like, I got this idea. Can you run with it? And they're like, okay. And next time they come back and they get it solved. And it's the same with like, for example, a graphic designer, like who designs your logo. Like somebody you pay $10 for, yeah, you're gonna have to do. But can you do the? You're gonna deal with it like that. While an experienced one, yes, some of them cost 10,000 for a logo or like your brand tech and stuff, and they're like, "Look, we got you. We just have a few questions here. They have questions for you," and then they bring you something, and you're like, "I didn't even think about that one." So when I designed when I got a designer for Brightrock, for example, I had no questions. I was like, okay, and bam, it was just okay. That was no effort from my side, and I think that's the same with editing. You know, you don't want to leave like if you pick one of the best editors on YouTube, they're gonna figure things out. You don't have to like even if they do something that you don't like, you're just like, maybe yeah, it's not too bad. You know, maybe I should just accept that. Maybe they know better. You know, so I think that's the big difference.
the YouTube algorithm, this buzzword that gets talked about a lot as though it's just this godlike, ethereal, invisible being. And let me sort of share a thing that we say within our Grindstone clients and creators, and I want to get your take on this, which is creators will come in, join. Maybe they're doing well, but not, they join us because they're not doing as well as they would like, or certainly, the trajectory isn't looking like they wanted. And a big thing that we hear is, yeah, I'm not sure the algorithm is pushing my videos, or like, it's just like some complaint about the algorithm. And the first thing that we try to tell them, whether it is true or not, is to remove this victim mentality around the algorithm punishing any creator for any reason. And so I'm curious what your take is on that. And like, it's a very overly vague question I'm about to ask you, but I'm just curious if you had to explain what the quote algorithm is in maybe 3 concepts or ideas, like how do you articulate what the algorithm is?
I think one of the things you mentioned is the exact reason why people are so confused. And I'm going to go further into this one. But a lot of people think, the algorithm doesn't push my content. The thing is like, let's just remove the victim mentality because, it's fair. People think that if they think that the algorithm pushes, the algorithm does not push, it pulls. And I think that's where the big things comes from. So I'm going to explain how that works. When you upload a piece of content, it doesn't automatically get sent to your subscribers or your returning viewers. It doesn't do that one. Instead, what happens is it goes into this big catalog that YouTube has of all the videos in the entire world. So that's the first thing. Bam. That's the only thing that happens when you upload. It just goes in that catalog. It doesn't get pushed to anybody. It looks like it does, but it doesn't. But what happens is then now millions and millions of people log in every single day on YouTube. So, but let's take a look at the single user. A single user logs in on YouTube. They get their homepage. All those videos, well, they had to come from somewhere, right? Like it's not like the page is blank until somebody uploads. No, they're there. Why is that? Because when you log in, YouTube very quickly looks at its database, grabs a set of videos, analyzes those videos, ranks those videos, and then like fills your feed with videos that it believes are a great interest match for you. So, for example, if a user logs in, maybe you log in, and it's a Friday evening, and you're on your phone, then YouTube may know, oh, look, in Friday evenings, when he's on his phone, he seems to be liking fitness videos, because YouTube figures out that you're probably at the fitness right there. They're trying to figure out your next dumbbell exercise. So it's going to probably serve you a bunch of fitness videos. Why? Because it believes that this is the most likely that you're going to be watching based on your past watch behavior, right? Now, let's say, for example, in your country, there are certain videos that are doing exceptionally well. When you log in, some of those recommended things or recommended videos are because, a lot of people in your country seem to be liking certain creators. So obviously it's going to push a few of those, right? So if you're a creator and you upload, the question is, amongst those recommendations, where do you fit? Because if let's say MrBeast just uploaded $500,000 pizza, and you're like, I ate my first pizza, right? Which do you think YouTube is going to serve? Most likely, that same viewer, even if they're a fan of yours, they're more likely to click a MrBeast video and enjoy that one for longer. Be interested, stay engaged, and be satisfied by it on that one. So why would it then ever serve your video? Just because that person used to watch you, well, no, there's a better recommendation. YouTube puts the viewer first. It tries to find the best interest match, the best videos for those specific viewers. If your videos do that one, and YouTube predicts that they will do that one, right? And they need to be able to predict that one, because obviously if you're a beginning creator, it doesn't know much about you. It doesn't know much about your viewers. It doesn't know much about your content. So it's still learning. That's the reason why it's so hard to grow at the beginning. But once it learns, right, it can start comparing you to all these other videos. And when a user or a viewer logs in onto YouTube and is recommended, YouTube is going to do that. So if your stuff is truly a good interest match and creates this interesting experience for people, not because you say it's interested, but because YouTube thinks amongst my whole database, this is the video that this person is this is the video that I think this person is going to want to watch, right? Then it's going to get recommended. So when a person underperforms, then most likely the algorithm predicted that was not better than the other videos that it currently has available on its platform. So yes, there's a little bit of a competitive element, and that's what we don't feel like. So YouTube does not push your content, it pulls. Now, often it does pull, like if I'm a subscriber of yours, then it knows that, hey, look, you're more likely to watch, if I'm a subscriber of yours and I log in, then obviously when I log in, it's most likely to serve me your content. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to do that if there are other videos, even if I'm not subscribed to those people. Because often we think that, subscription is like the biggest thing ever. No, there's device type. There's what videos are popular in your country. There's video lengths. On certain timings in my day, I log in and YouTube knows that I like 2-minute skits. And I don't want 40-minute podcasts. But there's also other times if I log in at like 2 a.m. at night, then it knows like, oh, Mario likes a really nice podcast. Or Mario likes to listen to Rain because he's trying to fall asleep. Let me push every single Rain video in the world. It's not going to serve me your I ate pizza for the first time video. So a lot of these kind of things. Maybe it knows that every single Friday I eat pizza. Then it's a little different case. But that's like a simplified way of explaining how it works. There's a little bit more of a complex way, but that's the reason why it's like, don't take it personal. If anything, take it like your content either isn't good enough or YouTube doesn't realize how good it is yet. And then you just got to give it time.
Yeah, so good. And you've mentioned MrBeast several times. Obviously, you used to work on the team. I think one of his most popular tidbits or advice for creators is just replace the word algorithm with the word audience. It's like the algorithm hated this video. So I know the audience hated this video. If the people watching this was like, this is amazing, this is absolutely incredible, it's like, then good things will happen most likely. And
the algorithm doesn't change, by the way. A lot of people also think that, the algorithm changes because my videos that I used to pull views don't pull views anymore. That also isn't true. The algorithm always is trying to do one thing, is serve the audience. Now, the means in which it might do this on what kind of metrics it's going to use or what it's going to look at, that may change, but that's normal. It's trying to do a better job. It's trying to learn from its past behaviors and be like, hey, how can I improve myself? And then obviously the Google engineers, they're also trying to improve the algorithm, right? But I think that's another thing, is like algorithm doesn't really change anymore. It's just trying to optimize itself to constantly be better at recommendations. Sometimes, that may put you a little bit backwards, and sometimes that may put you a little bit forward. But overall, if you make great content, it doesn't matter how the algorithm optimizes, you will always have an audience.
And how does the algorithm identify that? Like, I'm curious about this polling process, which is a much more useful image, by the way. It's pulling it toward you. And I make a video. Let's say a creator with 1,000 subscribers makes a video, right? Nothing, probably not going to go viral unless it is just this like unicorn of an idea with all of its necessary pieces. And is the algorithm sort of looking at the characteristics of each individual viewer and subscriber and seeing what those people are also watching? Is that how it identifies like the niche or the industry of this 1,000 subscriber creator? Like, what are the mechanisms that, okay, this YouTuber, 1,000 subscribers, makes a video. What are the next 3 steps of YouTube going like, okay, here's who would probably like this. Let's start pulling this.
Yeah. So there's a thing called features. Also, I made a YouTube video on this. Here's how the algorithm works, right? A great video to watch if you want to know more about it. But in a nutshell here, so there's this thing called features. Features are just characteristics characteristics of something. So what YouTube does is every single video that you upload, it creates features. So for example, from your title, it's going to figure out what topic is this, what keywords does this have, how long is this title, for example, right? What other words does it have other than its major keywords, etc. It's going to do that one first and foremost. But not only that, it's also going to look at your thumbnail. It's going to look at it's going to look at who uploaded this video. All those kind of things happen. So it's going to, and even it's going to look at your transcript and try to identify, what is video about, what are the topics, etc. It's going to learn about each video. So it creates features or, data points from that video, pretty much. Then it's going to do that the same for the user. So, for example, it's going to learn about what you like or what you typically interact with, how you interact with things, what device you use, what kind of content you use, when you use a certain device, etc. Where are you watching from, and all those kind of things. And then there's a third factor. There's a third factor like users similar to you. Well, they also have a user profile, and YouTube is going to be able to make connections and see like, hey, how similar are you to other users? Now, obviously, if you're a newer user and you haven't watched a lot, obviously there's not a lot of connections to be made. But the more you consume content, the easier it becomes. And you can kind of see this in terms of clusters. There's these groups of users, and it knows that. So with the video as well, like as you get more viewers, it can then be like, oh, look, Mario likes this one. Maybe those with similar user profiles that I already know of, they may like it as well. So it's going to push it. That doesn't seem to be. But it's like, I don't have just similarity with one group of people. I have similarities with many groups of people. I'm Belgian, so obviously there's a lot of Belgians. I am, I'm in my 30s. There's a lot of people in their 30s. I like sometimes educational content, but I don't really like fitness content. So it's trying to like somehow figure out what clusters. And the algorithm might sometimes miss. Sometimes it might think this video isn't good for a user, and then afterwards figure it out. And that's why sometimes after 100 days we suddenly see a video kick off, because finally it's figured out, oh, actually there is an audience, and it goes more, and it realized that, oh, I was wrong, I was looking in the wrong direction. But we cannot blame the algorithm here for not being able to instantly identify the right audience for your video, if there is a right audience at all. So that's something. So yes, there's a lot of things that we look at, or that YouTube looks at, from device usage to who you are to what the video is about, and try to connect all of those things. There's billions of data points being used for those recommendations, and to learn what to recommend to you.
If I looked at your YouTube homepage, what would I see?
We're gonna have to find out right now. So let's see. Well, what do you think I watch? Like, I have not looked at this before, so
it's a good question. If I wanted like a hardcore journalism, I would have you share your screen right now and show us live.
Yeah.
But
well, I will tell you. So there's a skit here. So there's for some reason there's a most copied riff. So for some reason, I think in the last few days I saw some guitar videos, and there's that. There's some actions finally of consequences. That's Asmongold. I'm going through this phase where I enjoy watching this stuff. There's they made deep dip out of ice. Can I beat it? So it seems like some Minecraft stuff or something like that. Yes, I work with Minecraft creators. There's a bunch of skits. There's even poker here. I haven't played poker in 2 years, but there's poker here. Some it says this kid beat the pros for millions. Started with just $30. I guess it knows that I like these like underdog stories. So
Mm.
that's there's Grox here, which is another Minecraft creator. I love Grox as a creator. He made a Minecraft video. I loved it. I watched it multiple times. So it knows that there. There's even like some buskers on the street who are making music here. I don't remember the last time I saw it, but I probably clicked on it at some point in the last year, you know. So I guess it knows it at this time. When I normally watch YouTube, these are the things that I'm gonna click on. Like most of these I don't realize. What I do notice is that I in the last 2 days, I clicked on a lot of very old videos, and now it's serving me like videos that are like 4 or 5 years old because the algorithm thinks that I really want to watch 4 or 5 year old videos. I don't want to watch 4 or 5 years old, but it thinks that right now. So it's kind of a little bit wrong, but I mean, it's just learning from my behavior, right? So next week, my homepage will look different. I'll tell you this one as well. There's one more here. Simulating an ant colony for 30 days. I've been looking at some ant videos.
Mm.
I think they're very fascinating. Like seeing like a single queen ant and then
Yeah.
so yeah, that's if you ever ask what does a homepage of somebody looks like that constantly analyzes content, probably the same as your homepage looks like. Completely random with some things that you're like, I'm not interested in this right now, but I know tomorrow you will be. So that's my homepage right now.
Love it. YouTube recently made some changes, I think, in response to this AI boom, this wave of artificial intelligence within the creator space. And for anyone listening who is maybe unaware, here's sort of the brief headline: YouTube to pay only for real voices and original content. To qualify for the YouTube Partner Program, creators must now produce original content featuring real voices. This means that videos relying on AI-generated voices, reused content, or low-effort compilations will no longer be eligible for monetization. The platform aims to prioritize authenticity and creativity, ensuring that viewers receive valuable and engaging content. What is your take on all of that and its consequences?
I think it's a good thing that this is happening. So first of all, I think the most important thing about this whole policy update is that it's not a change to policy too much. It's more like a reinforcement of this policy, and I think that's what YouTube was very clear on because they themselves have also tried to clarify because there was a lot of misunderstandings about this one. But I think it's good because there's a lot of spam out there and a lot of low quality content out there that is able to really easily surface there. Now it's mainly, as far as I know, it's mainly a YouTube partnership program thing. So that means that those people will not be able to monetize. And this is where it's at. Like, if you look at what content is going to make it up, right? We have to think that people are incentivized by the gains. So, for example, if low quality, just spam content is able to make money, then why wouldn't people start like 100 accounts with that kind of content and flood the gates with that type of content? Now, people are not really incentivized to make that kind of content. So we're going to see less people put effort or build companies around the type of content. So that allows for way more room for other types of content to surface. And, we see this actually, I think we see a very similar thing. If you look at X or Twitter, for example, there was this time when you actually, even now, you just see a bunch of spam content. The same with Facebook, for example. A lot of times it's like you don't like any of this content, but you do kind of interact with it, but it doesn't really make you feel good. It doesn't make you feel satisfied. It doesn't contribute too much to you as a person. So I think all of this is, they're not telling you that you cannot, make shifts or anything like that. But especially with the upcoming of AI, it is good that YouTube is reinforcing, like, look, not everything is okay, or we don't want all of your business here. We still allow all business here if you really want to do it, like it's still doing that, but that is not what we stand for. We stand here for a creator voice, for a human trying to make content, doing their best, sharing their world, sharing their vision, sharing their passion. We want a little bit less of that low quality content, and I think that's what they're trying to do here, or I mean that's what they're stating that they're trying to do, and I stand behind it. You can still do you can still, because they call it mass produced content. They're not talking about people who make a lot of videos. They're talking about literally people who have a content machine where you just take a meme, re-upload the meme, monetize the meme, and then make like 5 million try not to laugh compilations with zero additional value that can now get monetized. So now they're like, look, that's not going to be monetized anymore. So I think it's a great update. Who knows? Maybe I change my opinion tomorrow and I start an AI channel, but I doubt that I will. I'm very happy about this with this little reinforcement.
Yeah, and you reminded me of also this. I don't know if it's still as trendy as it was maybe last year, but the rise of faceless channels. That's
Yeah.
becoming like its own
Faceless
business
channels aren't
subset.
necessarily going to be a problem because faceless channels, they do contribute to value. They're documentary. Faceless channels have been around for a long time. There's a friend of mine and they have a channel called, or he has a channel called Solar Balls. And what they do is it's like a fun educational one where they use planets and stuff. And it's an absolutely amazing channel. There's also, if we think about Kirk's, it's very difficult to say. I still can't say it. Yes, that channel, for example. If you think about infographics, right? The infographics show has been around for a long time. They are faceless channels, right? But when we think about faceless channels, we often think about those people who just like go to body cam footage and then just add a little bit of extra music and that's about it. And they just upload it in RAW and stuff.
Can we round up this conversation with something that you do better than anybody, which is just talk about retention and maybe some specific tactics or tips that creators can use or start using today to increase their retention? You know, if the chart behind you, like how do creators get that their retention graphs to look like yours? And I'm sure we could list like 57 specific tips, but in general,
let's do a fun game. You tell me a topic, you tell me something, and I'll tell you a tip. Let's do a fast one. You tell me.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
And I'll give you a piece of it. It's something fun. So that way there's a good value per second.
Okay. Great. Music and sound effects.
Perfect. Music and sound effects. Music, if you want to think about music and how to use it, a good advice is when it comes down to the volume of music. When you're in scenes of exposition where you're explaining a lot, the focus needs to be on what's being said, right? Therefore, we want the music to take a little bit of a back tone because we don't want it to interrupt and we're not here to establish an emotion. But during moments of anticipation, when it's more about the anticipation rather than what's being said, then increase your music so that the emotion that the music is trying to tell you that you should feel is way easier to be felt. So balance your music according to the type of scene that you have, and that will actually increase engagement. And when it comes out to sound effects, which is your second thing, is using a lot of like mini sound effects, little pops, little twists and stuff are absolutely great because they make content come to life. They make it feel less bland. However, if you use sound effects, if you have a very obvious one, don't use it like 10 times like a swipe transition, like shoo, 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 because that's going to get very annoying to the viewer because they have like this repetitive auditory sound. So use it a lot, use a variety of it, and your content will feel a lot better to viewers.
Here's a curveball because I said I wanted retention, but I'm curious your thoughts. Pivoting niches or content industry, like do's and don'ts as far as a creator wanting to explore making different types of content with the same channel.
Yeah. If you change niche with the same channel, which by the way shouldn't matter that much, then if you shift, don't shift and instantly expect like, oh, it's going to be instantly doing great. And then, oh no, never mind, I want this. Oh, never mind. No, go for something and stick with it, right? Don't confuse your audience by shifting every single 5 seconds. If you're going to make a shift and stick with that shift. And then on the other hand, just know that initially, yes, YouTube may think that your original audience is the right audience for this video and then quickly realize like, oh, that's not the case. So it's going to instantly like your viewers may get less than. And then it might struggle to find you that new audience that does like this new type of content. But if you give it enough time, obviously YouTube is going to find it. At the same time, the thing is like this, your old content won't necessarily affect this new content that much. YouTube will learn, oh, this content is uploaded here. This content is uploaded like later. What content fits what audience group? YouTube treats videos on channels by video, not by channel. So therefore, if you do something, stick with it. Expect a loss. Expect And it's not just with niche, it's also, even if you like go into different topics within your niche, for example, you could have the same thing. Expect some loss, stick with it, and then slowly, if the content is good enough, it will start seeing more views.
Let's side quest on this, because this comes up a lot for our clients. You're saying that if a creator, a YouTuber has 100,000 subscribers doing chess content, and now they want to start making personal finance content, totally different from what they were doing. They start making personal finance videos. Those videos that used to get 30,000 views are now getting 300 views on average. Based on what you just said, if this is something that they really want to do, they should just plow through and continue. And if still 20, 30 videos from now, they're still getting 200, 300 views with their 100,000 plus subscriber audience, is that because you're saying that's not an algorithm thing? That has to do with they're just not making good enough videos now within this personal finance videos
for the audience that is trying to target. So the thing is, I guess obviously the chess audience has different expectations than a financial than an audience that cares about finance, for example. There's a little bit of overlap. That's those initial 300 viewers. But yes, if you are shifting there, maybe that content was good enough in the chess niche, but not good enough in the finance niche. So therefore, the simple advice is make better content.
But then does that, again, this is hypothetical, but then would this hypothetical channel not just have tens and tens of thousands of, quote, dead subscribers who are, no matter how good the content is, they will never watch this person's personal finance videos?
I would say not never, because some of them might suddenly gain an interest in finance, some of those viewers, and YouTube may realize it at some point, like, hey, maybe this, but these 100,000 people, they came here because they liked you for chess. They didn't come here because they like you for finance. So yes, in a way, it's like these are subscribers that are like not really engaged, and these subscribers will probably not engage with you. So yes, in a way, they're just that subscribers.
And this godlike algorithm, or YouTube as a whole, is there not this punishing aspect of, we're not going to try to pull these videos because this guy's own subscribers, like this guy's own fans, don't want to watch these videos?
If we look at the traffic from a lot of the top creators, we see that in many cases a video could have 100 million views, and 50% of that audience of the views come from non-subscribers. A lot of people don't subscribe anymore. I barely subscribe ever. I have a lot of people who I watch, and I don't subscribe because I know the algorithm is going to serve me that content anyways. And a lot of viewers have learned this as well. It's like YouTube judges based on how we interact with content, not based on just who we are subscribed to. Who we're subscribed to, maybe like 10 years ago, that might matter because the algorithms weren't that advanced yet. But at this point, it is getting a lot better at figuring out which videos to recommend to viewers, whether you subscribed or not. It could be a good signal, but it's not necessarily a signal. I'm still subscribed to, for example, Red and Link, because I had some years that I really enjoyed their content. Now it's just not my type of content anymore. And I don't remember the last time that YouTube served me their content. So that's to give you an example there as well. YouTube doesn't really punish because it doesn't do them justice to punish people for like, oh, you shifted to punishment. No, it's just trying to figure out, hey, is this new content good enough to serve to an audience? If no, it's like, it's not punishing you. It may feel like a punishment, but it's not a punishment. It's just like, it doesn't know who to serve you to over other content on YouTube. Because you go into finance niche, well, guess what? Now Alex Hormozi, you're competing against him. When you're doing chess, Alex Hormozi doesn't do chess content, so you don't have to worry about him. You only have to worry about Magnus Carlsen, right? That's the only. So different niches have different competition, different levels of skill as well. You go into the Minecraft niche, good luck. There's like hundreds of creators trying to make it there with all full-on production teams. You cannot pull it off on your own anymore. Maybe you can. There's some creators they can, but so there's no punishment going on. It's just YouTube needs to figure out with every single content piece that you make, is it good enough? Yes or no?
Got it. And then I guess the question then that pops up is, well, okay, just because it's possible, does that mean that just pivoting and sticking with this channel? So like, again, these are the things that I see on a regular basis. Creator builds an audience, tens of thousands, like relatively small compared to what the creator wants, but like it took years to build this audience. And there's this sunk cost fallacy of like, I don't want to be making this type of content anymore, but I don't want to just give up this audience that I've worked so hard to build.
I'm going to make an analogy here. let's say you've got a job, in your 20s, you were young and you started working at McDonald's, for example, right? And you were like, this is not too bad. I kind of like this. But, over time, you're like, okay, this is kind of the same old, same old. You make your way up the ranks. You become a manager, et cetera, et cetera. And you've been doing that for years. And now you're like, oh, maybe I want to start my own pizzeria, for example. You get everything ready and you open up your first mini on the street pizza shop, right? Your mobile pizza shop, and it just doesn't go well. Do you tell that person, yeah, I go back to McDonald's and work as your manager job? Or do you tell them to stick through and figure out some things and work that through? I would argue that it's better to tell a person like work it through, because their dream wasn't to maintain that manager position, because they know what they're going to make and they're going to make a certain amount of money and stuff, but that's not what they truly want. So then when the Pizza Hut, they have a true passion, we will tell that person to keep on pushing. So in YouTube, how is it different? Like just because you've built something to a certain, you don't owe that like that. Like you're not owing that audience anything. You don't have to, like, it's not like a debt that you have to repay. Like, oh, they've given me their time. No, they watched because they enjoyed your content. It's for selfish reasons. They enjoyed their content. They got value out of their content. You don't own them anything. So if you're not happy doing what you're doing and you want to shift because you find more passion in that other thing, then go in that other thing. This often happens. Like, there's a lot of creators that I work with. They do gaming content and they absolutely love it. And then, as they grow older, they get more interested in business. Well, then let them transition. I even did it. I was a professional gamer. I played video games. I played shooter games for 5 years. And I was like, kind of done with it. So I shifted and now I'm an analyst. And then I was an analyst strategist. And now there's a lot of like CEO stuff happening. So, we all evolve as people and we all like our interests change as well. And that doesn't mean that we're different as a person, but it's, we don't have to be stuck. Just because we build something here doesn't mean that we have to be there forever. Because that would mean that I would still play games for a living. I could do that one. But if that's not what I'm passionate about and I want, then why would I do that? And that's the same with content. You don't have to make content just for the sake of money. Just for the sake of that, oh, I already built an audience there. Now I have to stick here. But if you're going to swap, like you can start a pizza place. Oh, no, it doesn't work out. Let's go back to McDonald's. Oh, you know what? Some people do that. Some people are sporadic like that. And that's to their fault then. And that's, sometimes to succeed is going to take some time too.
And so I love that. So the principle I understand, but tactically, maybe to bring this point home, would that hypothetical creator, again, who has 100,000 subscribers in a chess niche, who wants to start making personal finance content, would it not be better for that creator to then just make a completely new channel and start from scratch? Or is it worth their time to go through that slog with the audience that they've already built?
If you start from scratch, YouTube still has to figure out the first viewer. It could work, but why not give yourself a little bit of a break and allow yourself that old audience to build, to see like, hey, which of those viewers may initially like my content, right? Because there's already an audience base of people who like you for you. So why not utilize them? And some of them are going to have an interest in finance. Use that audience to create an initial audience, and then you have that leg up way faster. And that's really what you want to do. Is like you want that quicker leg up, because you're gonna have to go through a lot of less of that, like that period where you won't even get your first viewer or like your first like 100 viewers. Just utilize that old audience already, because there's gonna be some interest overlap.
Great. I can hear your son in the background. That's perfect timing.
You can hear what?
I assume that's your son in the background.
Oh yeah.
It was just
Mike picks it up.
No, it was perfect timing, because you made your final point, you stopped, and then your son, almost like a hype man in the background, he's like, I love that. Go, Dad. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, that was a great side quest. Thanks for going down that journey with me. Back to sort of retention. It's almost eye-rolly cliche, but biggest mistakes people make with their hooks when putting a video together?
I think there's a lot of mistakes that people make. I think a lot of people insert their private little logo that they want to have, for example, or they insert way too much information. They start talking about things that are not relevant at the beginning. Your hook, your intro has to do one thing. It has to evoke curiosity, but that's for shorts mainly. In long form, you have a little bit more of a stronger duty here. You have a duty to confirm the click and to establish that, hey, we're actually going to deliver on what you clicked for. I think you can hear my son again.
Yeah.
He's like, no, that's not a good answer. Yeah, I'll shift, sure.
Yeah.
He's gonna become a YouTuber one day. I can tell he has a strong voice already. So, anyways, so you got to confirm that. Then you got to establish essential context. That's, for example, is there rule sets to this? Is there limitations to it? Or maybe what's the structure of the video looking like? Then you want to establish a goal so that the viewer knows, like, okay, what are we working towards? And the last thing is like setting a tone. Like the viewer needs to understand what kind of tone they're going to expect.
A side note, I was interviewing John Barr, who's a big New York City YouTuber,
Yeah.
a few weeks ago, and it was perfect. Sometimes it's like it's perfect for the interview because in his background, he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like they were just honking car. It was the New York City ambient noise, just people yelling, honking, and he was like, "Do you want me to?" And I was like, "No. This has to be in it. This is like the background noise. This is great."
That's life. It's it's like I mean, I'm analyzing here. I hear my son cry. It's at the same time, it's like it's human life. Like we cannot be perfect, and I mean, he will barge in here. Like I'll have a meeting and he'll barge in here, and I try to prevent it, but like you can only do so much, and you don't want them to feel either that he's not wanted, right? You want him to feel like,
Yeah.
hey, look, like your dad really cares about you. I've got some stuff to do. Go play later on. We'll play together. It's natural in life, so.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so we just did the hook. So that's the hook. What about the outro? And I know every video is different, every creator is different, every style is different, so it's hard to just say like every single video should have this exact same framework. But in terms of a conclusion or an outro, like what tend to be the best ways to wrap up a video in your eyes?
Don't go heavy on the summarization or anything like that. I mean, if the viewer wants to get back to it, they can. Like, do a short, like show it, but don't recap your entire thing. Keep it sweet and short. If the viewer found value in it, they'll go back if they want to rewatch something. That's the beautiful thing. And in the class, for example, is harder to rewatch, right? But even in this one, like you can rewatch, and I think that's the most important thing that people need to know is like if there's a rewatchable thing, or like if there's a rewatchable rewatching mechanism in play, then let the viewer use that one. So tighten up very, very sweet, and then allow for like 10 plus seconds or 10-ish seconds for your end screens to play so that people can find and like that you have the opportunity to recommend them videos that you think they should be watching, and they will do that one. There's a lot of creators who pull in 5% of their audience comes from end screens, so use that one as well. But overall, just tighten it up. Don't go too crazy. Don't go too fancy, and that's the best way to end your videos.
If there are three sort of categories of viewer: strangers, casual viewers, and then true fans, like who will watch every single thing that you do, we often teach, especially smaller creators who want to grow, like make every single thing as though it's a stranger watching your stuff. Make it very stranger friendly. One, do you agree or disagree with that? And two, do you feel like that changes the bigger a creator gets?
No, I think the one thing that you do want to have is like while you are trying to appeal to a new viewer, you're trying to have some familiar elements, some returning elements, video to video, whether that's a certain style, whether that's certain characters, those kind of things, the style of delivering content, or even the tone or the type of music. Maybe there's a track, for example, that keeps on returning, right? Make that for your regular viewers. Give them a familiar experience. But when it comes down to that familiar experience, it shouldn't feel like it wasn't made for new viewers. And new viewers should come in and feel welcomed. They shouldn't feel like they're left out. They're missing out on an inside joke from 5 videos back or anything like that. So it is all about creating an experience that is catering to both new viewers and being familiar enough that a returning viewer understands what they're coming back for.
Cool. One of the most important elements for a good story are stakes. What's at stake? Why should we care? What do I have to gain? What do I have to lose? And it's very different for different types of content. Like we have some musicians, for example, in our program. It's just like they want to make music, right? It's very different to perform a song versus I performed a song. I performed 5 songs over a pit of fire. If I can't, it's just like, no, I just want to sing this song. So it's been a very interesting task or challenge to sort of share storytelling principles or video scripting principles. I'm kind of losing the thread here.
Not everybody. Like I'll take this one. Not everything needs a story. If I come to a video and I just want to hear the 10 latest hits on the radio, like I just want a video that just give me the 10 latest hits on the video and I'll be satisfied. So you need to understand what the viewer comes from. Not everybody's trying to go through an emotional roller coaster. Not everybody's trying to go through tension. Sometimes we just want to know 50 facts about my country. Like, sure, there doesn't need to be a story. These are little chunks and I like them, So it really depends on what kind of video you're making. But if you have a story, I think there's a simple thing that I like to tell people. It's like you have a person or a character who wants something. That's our goal, right? So you have a person who wants something, but there's something in the way, right? That's the obstacle. Actually, sorry, I'm gonna go back because I forgot one. A person who wants something for a reason. That's your why. You need to have your why, right? But something is in the way, with something important at stake if they fail to get that one. So that's really where it is. Now, again, sometimes the story doesn't have to be too complex. Sometimes we're not looking to go through something like that. Sometimes we watch a video, it happened to have a story, but in reality, the viewers here because they just want to see spectacle. If you think about MrBeast, for example, I think is a perfect example. Sometimes people want to see spectacle. Even with Stokes Twins, we do secret rooms. Sometimes people want to see, where's the secret room? That looks really cool. That's all people care about, And some people really care about the deeper story, right? Sometimes we don't care about a story with like very heavy stakes and all that kind of stuff, an emotional twist. Sometimes we just want the most basic story. If you look at SpongeBob, for example, are you really worried about he might die? No, you just want to see a silly little boy like, hey, I'm going to do this one. That's what you really care about. So there's
yeah, really good.
Sometimes that's all we want. Did fun fact actually that I read this, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it sounds true. But 25% of SpongeBob audience is adults, So fun fact. So
my two of my best friends, they're married. They quote SpongeBob all the time. My little sister hasn't seen a single episode of SpongeBob.
Yeah. Well, SpongeBob as well. Like you just watch for the comedy. You just watch for the jokes. It's like you see silly Patrick. Oh, I don't want that rock bump. Goes on him. Ha ha ha. Like that's just silly. It's yeah. There are some science behind it to why we like it. But yeah, that's the thing. Is like stories, stakes. They help and they create tension, and that is really good to driving engagement and making people watch for longer. Sometimes your viewers they don't really care too much about that.
One more retention-y question, and then some rapid-fire questions to wrap this conversation up. Attention span. It's cliche to say, our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter as the years go on and on. Is that true? Is that false? And what do you know about our attention spans?
I love this question. When I rebuilt my research company, one of the first things I wanted to research was attention spans. So I got my researcher as well, and I had him go through an entire meta-analysis, etc. And we came to the conclusion that attention spans are not shortening at all. There's no proof of it. There's people who claim it to be true, but when you look at the research, it's very difficult to replicate. There's flaws within the research. Here's what is actually happening. What's actually happening, or what it seems like is actually happening, is that as content like shorts and stuff comes here, it takes less effort with shorts, for example, to go to something that we like. We're just one swipe away from our next thing. So we're willing to give things less time of day because there's something around the corner that like we know it's just around the corner. So we choose to, swap faster. So the thing is so the first thing is like there's more content available and is available way easier. So that can be confused with attention span shortening. In reality, it's just like, why would you give something attention when there's something else that might be better around the corner? If you're not enjoying something, you might not want to stick with it, right? And that's, I think, the same thing, for example, because attention span shortening also is an issue that people say in education. But if you look at it, you can learn something from that boring teacher who talks in a very unengaging way, or you can go to YouTube and have somebody explain something in a very engaging way. What are you going to choose? So when you have access in your free time to YouTube all the time with these very engaging educators, and now you go in school and you have this teacher and you're like, man, I'm bored out of my mind here. They're not visualizing, they're being repetitive and stuff. Then obviously you're going to lose my attention because I could just go home later at night, watch a 5-minute videos, and I'll have learned everything that you just taught me. So now, yes, there's when it comes down to retention of information, then now we're looking into nuances. But when we purely talk about attention span, it's there's no proof that they're shortening. And also, how do you even measure that? Because attention span depends. There's cultural differences. There's also mood. There's interests. There is the strength of the presenter, how well they're doing. So the thing is, I guess, if it was truly shortening, it wouldn't explain that there's still podcasts doing extremely well. It wouldn't explain that people still watch movies for 2 hours plus. It wouldn't explain that even when it comes down to the Minecraft niche, for example, if you look at a few years ago, it was like 12 to 15-minute videos, and now you're talking about 30-minute videos that kids watch all the way through. So it's like, if attention spans are too shortening, that wouldn't make much sense. So I don't believe that attention spans are shortening. These are just some of the reasons. We have an entire research paper written about this one already. We have not published it yet. At some point we probably will. But there's no indication that attention spans are shortening right now. It's just that the quality of content is getting better, and it's way easier to access the higher quality content.
Yeah. Okay. So it's easier to get distracted. There are more options available. And what an insight that popped into mind as you were sharing all of that, and I never thought about this, is I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Design of Everyday Things.
I haven't.
You have no reason to. I don't know why you would, but it was fascinating. I read it when I was doing my first freelancing graphic design-y thing. I was a horrible graphic designer, hence why I don't do it anymore. But it was a fascinating book, and it goes through the design of everyday things, from teapots to doors, and it's just like what makes something well designed. And the thesis of the book in general, spoiler alert, is that if the function of a thing is confusing to people, it's not their fault. It's the fault of the design of the thing. So if a bunch of people are like pushing a door and it's a pull, then something about like where the sign is or the shape of it, it was designed poorly. Yep. And that was what I thought of when you were sharing all of that. As far as
the same thing, it's like the design of the content. Maybe at some point it was good enough to hold attention. Maybe the teacher in the class at some point that was good enough to hold attention. But right now we have so many more options. So why waste our time when we can do it? Like when we can get things in a more efficient way, etc. And again, this doesn't retain. Like, we're not talking about retention of information. We're talking about pure attention span. Attention span, again, no shortening seems to be the case. It just seems to be that we're getting really good at figuring out whether this is worth our time or not.
6 rapid fire questions for you, and then you will never see or hear from me again.
We'll talk again, but I'll in a few years. But
okay, cool. Okay, let's do it. What in your career, Mario, is getting easier, and what is getting harder?
Ooh. I think it's getting easier for me to identify the mistakes that people are making, and that's simply through the experience, right? Through experience and continuing, I think it gets easier. What is getting harder is living up to the expectations that people have from the knowledge. So when you look at somebody who's junior, you're not expecting them to like know the answer to everything. And as I'm putting more stuff out there and I'm working on more things and I'm being connected to bigger and bigger creators. Well, at this point, we're at the top of the industry. There's a certain expectation that you have the answer for everything. And it's like, I think that's not true. I don't have the answer for everything. I have the answer to a lot of things, but not everything. And who knows, maybe even that a lot of things might not be enough. We don't know that kind of stuff. So I think that's the stuff that gets harder. And then also I think, the problem of scaling is like, it's again, it's not operating. I'm not analyzing 2 retention charts in a month anymore. It just goes on and on. I think that's getting a little bit harder, but we're managing, we're trying.
Yeah. So almost one and the same answer, right? Like you're getting better, your skill set and your ability to identify problems or issues or mistakes. And so too is the expectation that your ability to identify problems and mistakes is increasing.
They go very hand in hand, yeah.
Yeah, okay. What is the number one lesson you have had to learn the hard way?
That there are so many factors involved at the beginning I thought like, oh, if I change this little thing, it will do a lot. If I change this little thing, it'll do a lot. But there's endless of things. Like you could fix 100 things about your content. But in reality, it was that it was your character or who you are or how you dress that really had the impact on how people engage with you. So there's so many things. And I think that's the hardest learning is that when I initially started, I thought I was like, hey, I can just fix a thumbnail. I can do this. And in reality, it's the combination of hundreds and hundreds of factors. And I have a creator that wasn't able to really grow very much until they actually managed to fix hundreds and hundreds of them. And it was really sucky because everybody else had big breakthroughs, grew very fast, and this creator just had to stick with it. And I just had to keep on telling him, like, look, we're going to fix more. We're going to fix more. Eventually, inevitably, you're going to be good enough. But it took a very long time before he was remotely good enough.
What is something you believe, a principle, a philosophy, etc., about content creation that most other creators would disagree with?
I think it is the value, and the thing is, it is more factual than belief, but is the value of the metrics reported on our YouTube dashboard. Everybody looks at their CTRs, everybody looks at their APVs and all kind of stuff. And even to this day, there's a lot of analysts that will disagree with me on the validity of that data and how usable it is. But I always believe if your data doesn't correlate with your success metric, which is views, then it is unusable. So, and I really, really believe that one. So the question, like, and I don't feel like I have to argue this one. So I don't think it's controversial. It's just the reality that a lot of people don't want to hear because it's difficult to accept the fact that there's very little metrics that are usable. But that doesn't change the fact and the reality of those metrics. So, but I know that that's something that every single time I go against CTR, I go against APV, everybody bats an eye and it's like, wait, what is happening? Like, oh, does this person know what he's talking about? And I always tell people like, look, let's have this conversation again. You do a correlation analysis on your CTR to views, and let's come back to this conversation and see if see if you still go against me. And, maybe you do have the data, then we have room for conversation. But up until this day, for years, nobody's been able to put data in front of me that proves me them wrong, while I've been able to prove that they are wrong. And the thing is, I'm not trying to tell people that they're wrong. I'm just asking people to adjust and look at their data and treat it the way that it's telling them to be treated. So if data is useless, data is useless, So, I don't know why I have to go against this so much, but it's like, just look at your numbers, and it makes me frustrated because a lot of new creators are looking up to these big strategists and these big creators that are all telling like you need to hit 70% retention, and everybody goes with this like unrealistic expectation that you need to hit a certain retention percentage. In reality, it doesn't even correlate with viewership. So you're teaching young creators, newer creators, to hit certain metric that is impossible to hit. That's what frustrates me about it, and it's like, even people who've checked the correlations that continue to spurt out this wrong narrative, it absolutely frustrates me. Not because it goes against me. I don't care about that, because it affects beginning creators. It even affects large creators who are just trying to make good content and trying to understand if they're doing a good job or not. That's the reason why I'm so passionate about this talking point, and why I'm like, that's a strong belief of mine, but it's backed by data. And yeah. Maybe I'm going a little too much of it, but if there's anything I'm passionate about, is that specific point right here.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. And we did talk about this. You also have a YouTube video diving in much greater detail about this. But let's assume someone listening to this has not listened to either of those or watched any of that. If you could leave them with a 2-part, and I know this is oversimplified, but stop doing this and start doing this instead, what are those things?
Stop looking at metrics such as CTR, APV, AVD, etc., and start looking at views and the behavior of your chart. If your chart goes down for a significant period of time, that's something to pay attention to, because objectively you're losing an audience, whether it's you're losing 1% or 5% or 10%, right? So look at the way your chart behaves. Or even take a 10,000 look foot and be like, hey, does it look like people are getting bored? Does it look like people are skipping? And then try to then reverse engineer what you should be doing instead. And then look at views as a measurement of performance. Does your views go up? Does your views per day go up? All those kind of things. And then use that as a means to judge whether your changes were good or not, your A/B tests were good or not. It doesn't matter what the metrics say. You could have a video with 100% retention. If it gets 5 views versus a video with 5% retention, but it gets a million views, I'd rather have the 1 million views, because that's really what I'm after. So views, retention chart behavior.
Great. Favorite creator outside of your niche?
Can I pick my clients?
Sure. Whoever you want.
You
Top
know
three.
what? Honestly, man, this might get me hate, but I just love the. Yeah, I've been enjoying like this month. I've been enjoying Asmongold a little bit. It's just fun. It's like I don't agree with everything he says, but it's just like yeah, it's just like he's enjoyable, he's entertaining. I like just the entertainment part of it. So that's kind of what I like to watch. If you talk about creators who I like working with, which is what I most do, obviously Stokes. Like actually, you know what? Pretty much everybody who I work with, they're fantastic. Like this is the one thing I can say about the creator economy. Like this is why I love the creator economy so much versus like a lot of business. I'm not going to be too specific here. Is that a lot of times when I do very traditional business, let's put it like that, it feels very soul draining in energy. And with the creator economy, it's so much fun. Everybody's full of energy. Everybody's so excited. It makes it so much fun.
Cool. Two more. What have you sacrificed to get to where you are today? And what have you been unwilling to sacrifice?
I've sacrificed time for sure. Like, spend time with friends that I could have spent, time I love board games. I could have spent more time board games. I still like playing video games. I sacrifice that time. That's the biggest sacrifice of all is time. And I realize it. And I think if you look at older people, they will always say like, oh, I wish I should have spent more time here. And this kind of comes to the second part of your question is what am I not willing to sacrifice? Time with my son, time with my wife, and my own sanity. So there are limitations. I still want to enjoy doing this one because at the end of the day, if I hate doing what I do, then what's the point? Just for an extra view, just for an extra dollar, it doesn't make any sense in my eyes. And I'm in a very fortunate situation that I can say that. I know not everybody can say that. So, and I don't take it for granted. I'm very, very thankful for everybody who's believing in me and working with me, etc. But at the same time, I think time is the biggest sacrifice, and what I'm not willing to give up or sacrifice is all my time. There's certain time that I want to spend towards certain things in life.
Yeah. Beautiful. Last question for you, sir. If you could give the you of 3 years ago one piece of advice, what would you tell that, Mario?
Stop thinking so small. Just because a person doesn't think that, like, man, actually, in a way, I was also thinking big. When I say that, I think sometimes I was worried about problems or little things that I was focused on that in reality had such a limited impact. But at the same time, I'm like, it's like, what would I even do with that piece of advice if somebody told me this one? Like, but at the same time, there's a person who once told me that, and it did change me. And he told me like, "Hey, Mari, you're so focused on like these small things that are meaningless. How about you focus on bigger things?" And I started focusing on bigger things. So I just wish I would have gotten that advice earlier. Maybe that could be a thing.
Okay. Maybe just a quick follow up for specifics. If you followed that advice 3 years ago, what would be different?
I think I would have just gotten here faster. I think that's all. Like, yeah, I think that's the only thing I would do. But at the same time, like, there's a kind of a magic in messing it up. There's kind of a magic in like not having done that. So it's like the question that in the way that you want to ask yourself, would you actually want to give yourself advice back then? I don't know. Like, I'm kind of liking, I'm in love with the life that I have right now. It's not perfect, but it's like, I really like this life. So it's like, in a way, you could ask yourself with that question, would you want something different? And it's like, I don't think I would. I love the struggles that I'm having, because I'm not like, there's people with way worse struggles that I would not love to have. Like, I love the struggles that I'm having. I would love to have a little bit more time sometimes, but I think every single person wants that. But at the same time, what would I do if I have more time? I'll invest more time into more things. So it's like, I'm very happy where I am. I really am.
As you should be. Mario Joos, we just did almost 2 hours. And as always, I enjoy
Right.
the hell out of these. I absolutely love these conversations. Love talking to you, man. And where can I link people to check out more of your stuff?
Twitter, LinkedIn, maybe YouTube for some of the resources. I think all of those things. If for a more direct content, I think if you like written content, it would be X or X Twitter or LinkedIn. And I think when you want video content, it would be YouTube. Those would be the best places. Or if you know, yeah, those would be the best places because those are free resources for everybody, and I love giving away free resources. So those are the best places.
You're the man. Thanks for your time today, man.
No, thank you.